Hey there! It's time to look at Casper through the Wyckoff lens again. If you're new to my sessions, here are the 3 key items I'll cover during the session. So let's start with the weekly chart of Casper. Casper has been going through a pretty long journey along the accumulation cycle. However, there's a key difference when we look at the chart. And when we get to the daily chart, we'll be able to see more. But let's look at what's happening over the past about 15 weeks. So, started from November last year. Okay, we saw an automatic rally, and then, the price came down for another test, which ended up higher than the selling climax. And that's why at that time I've drawn this line over here, saying this time when the price came down during May, if it stays along this uptrend, that's a pretty positive sign. But unfortunately, we all know what happened on October 10th, right? That particular week fell below that line, and now we can take it away. However, it's not completely bad news or pessimistic, because if we look at this leg downwards, you see all these candlesticks with longer bodies, and this time only the first part, okay, before end of July, those were still having pretty high volume. But when we get to this point, the bodies of the candlesticks gets a lot shorter, meaning the price range or the trading range within those weeks, the price fluctuations are getting lower and lower. That's I consider a sign of stabilizing, okay, compared to this period where maybe a lot of people were still buying the dip and then being scared away. This is like a scenario where there's not much stock left with the small fishes or the ones with weaker hands. Okay, the diamonds are probably staying, and even when the big guys are pushing the price down, the price gap isn't showing in the candlesticks. So that's why they are showing much shorter candle bodies, and I consider that a good sign, a stabilizing sign. All right, the big picture, the spring, it's pretty much confirmed, I would say, that, or a test to a level is pretty much confirmed, let's put it this way, because the spring should bounce up pretty quickly after a sharp decline. This is not the case. This is a pretty gradual decline. So maybe it's going to come at a later point before the actual distribution cycle appears. So, like I said, there's still 50% chance plus this 20. It's 70% chance for this test to continue, and it has been the same for a couple of weeks. So it's not, it's no news here, because in the bigger picture, things takes time to evolve. So while we're hoping for the sign of strength to reappear, and best with subsequent backup or last point of support that eventually goes to the new distribution cycle, as of now, accumulation is still what's going to happen. I guess it's likely going to get into 2026 before we see a subsequent or a significant challenge to the upside, unless from now till the end of December there's some big good news coming out from any part of the world, which I don't know, treat that as a Christmas present if that's the case. So let's get to the daily here. Okay, what additional we can see from this point? We have said, okay, the test 70%, spring, we are expecting it would happen. It's not a must for it to happen. And then this is pretty much aligning to what's in the weekly chart. But this downtrend, all right, it's edging towards the stronger side of the downward channel box or the air hockey table. So if I draw the usual line, okay, give me a second, the interface is Okay, it's gone to the bottom, that's why. This is the line I was trying to draw. Okay. So basically we see a lot of candlesticks, they had either their heads or tails bouncing off from this line. This is where we place the center line. Okay, it doesn't have to cut the box exactly in half. So what's going on here is that initially during July, when the price first dropped, all the way till September, mid-September, it was trading at the weaker side. And then it flipped to the stronger side of the air hockey table. Even October 10th, didn't impact it for too long, right? So October 12th, it's already back to the stronger side of trading. Yeah, it has tested a couple of times at the beginning of the month, as well as just last week, that it tried to get to the weaker side of the trading area. But fortunately, over the past few days, it seems to be stabilizing and following this support line that I've drawn in last session and started horizontal or sideways trading. So that's the thing I mentioned that we will want to see, so it gets back to the stronger side of the air hockey table or the downtrend. Because when it continues to the right hand side, there are 2 time points that it's likely an indication of a trend change. One point towards somewhere around Christmas, so we're very close to that, and the other points to a month or a week or a week and a half later. So those 2 time points means if the price continues to trade sideways, or if a little bit of positive sentiments when we get closer to Christmas, those are the 2 opportunities for the market to let us know or confirm to us, is the trend going to change? Is the price going to break outside of this downward trend box finally after almost half a year? By the time we get to those time points, it's definitely getting into 6 months. All right, counting from this point when the price first dropped over here. So to this time point, that's 155 days. For the later one to January, that's 166 days. Yeah, so well over 5 months. All right, so yeah, that's what's going on with both the weekly and daily time frame. We're waiting for the breakout to happen. There's probably a couple of more weeks before that comes, but the early signs are clear. So even we have those 2 days where the price got rejected from the ceiling of the downtrend, but the past 6 days, these very narrow range or very short candle bodies with long wicks, especially you see these wicks at the bottom, shows that there were people buying in from those points. Just today, we'll see whether this is like a final shakeout kind of thing that's happening, or is it going to happen much like what the previous few days, that with 7 hours left, is somebody going to get in and push the price back to close at a higher level, leaving a wick at the bottom? And weekend is also coming, so if no crazy news comes out, it's probably going to be a quiet weekend. Just one last thing, because this chart does not have the volume, so we are going to look at crypto.com's chart just to confirm one thing that I said. Okay, people buying in from the lows. So look at these, especially this one on Tuesday. And you see that buying, that volume that supports this, even though it's red, but the price isn't really crazy. You see it's a red cross over here. So basically, the market is finding kind of an equilibrium position, and whenever the price gets lower than that, people are willing to jump in and buy. So I consider that a pretty positive sign. Alright, let's use a green line and make it thicker so you know. Okay, so it's just today's candle, we're waiting for it to close, but today's volume is pretty low. Even if it drops a little below the green line, I'm still fine with it. Okay, thanks for joining me.